Well, I still follow some political things.
Oh, I mean, so do I.
Every now and then I see too much on my timeline, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to go unfollow some people. I need to see some more Liverpool.
All right, we are good to go.
All right, you ready? Is it recording now?
Yeah, it is.
All right, so it is August 16th at the State of Things podcast studio.
Headquarters. Austin's leaving the room. He's out of here.
Austin
Out
said,
of the
yep,
park.
well, that was a good podcast.
He's done.
All right,
no, he's
that's
back.
a wrap.
So today in the world, and in like the last, my gosh, few days,
Yeah, it started about a week ago. 2 weeks ago.
everything is revolving around Afghanistan. There's nothing more pressing in the world, at least in the news, than Afghanistan. So, obviously, in the last 24 to 48 hours, the Taliban has taken over the capital of Afghanistan. U.S. troops are at the international airport there trying to keep peace, trying to keep Afghanistan civilians off the runway, trying to make sure that the Taliban doesn't attack. It has just been a real chaotic evacuation by the Americans, which has led to just chaos in general in the country. I think there was just a very big underestimating, or how can I say that better? Just a
It's like an underestimation.
just a severe lack of intelligence, or either a severe lack of confidence in.
Overconfidence.
Well, yeah, maybe an overconfidence in U.S. abilities and intelligence, and an underconfidence in Taliban capabilities.
Well, I think it was the overconfidence was in Afghani competence.
Yeah, so the Afghanistan
Military
military did not shed themselves in great light. But like we've said previously, Taliban, and I think rightly so, it has been stated that this is going to be written in historical books and war books and military strategy books. They even say that the evacuation currently that the military is doing will probably be taught to future members of the military, just as either a sign of how things should go or how they shouldn't go. I'm sure there'll be lessons learned either way.
Yeah.
But 1 week, basically, and the Taliban takes over the whole country. Of course, we mentioned that they were fighting for 2-3 months before this, maybe even longer than that, and it was actually some real fighting. And now we see, in like the past week, they've just made peace deal after peace deal in different capitals in Afghanistan, and eventually just took over the whole country. So, here we are.
Here we are. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, is it gross negligence, really, on our part? Or, I mean, was this an inevitability?
Well, I think inevitable that we were going to leave Afghanistan at some point. We had to.
Yeah.
Was it inevitable that we left this terribly? No. I think leaving
was it
was
inevitable
probably
that the Taliban takes over?
would come back. Not necessarily. I think, again, it was just the strategy of leaving Afghanistan was probably the right strategy. I don't know if many people that still want to be in Afghanistan or really know what we're accomplishing in Afghanistan, besides spending trillions of dollars. But it's still, to this point, like, I don't think it was inevitable that the Taliban takes over. Certainly the president didn't think it was inevitable. We set a deadline to leave. We got close to sticking to that deadline, but so the why was correct. We left because we don't really have a mission there anymore.
Yeah.
And we really, if we did have a mission, I don't know if we were successful. The how is where we really screwed up. How we left. Because I think it's been mishandled incredibly to the fact where we're having our ambassador like rush to get the flag, or our embassy staff rush to get the flag so that the Taliban doesn't use it for propaganda purposes when they take over the capital.
Yeah.
Like a few days after we say, well, the capital could fall in like 90-ish days. And then 2 days later, we've got troops flying in from all over the world to protect our embassy staff at the airport.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, that in that facet, we definitely failed in terms of leaving. But as far as, you know, the state of the Afghani government, did we really fail in how we left? I mean, by inevitability, I don't foresee any route that we took was going to stop the Taliban from taking over Afghanistan. I mean, short of a U.S.-funded permanent army that we paid their civilians and their soldiers with U.S. currency.
Well, we already were. We were paying their salaries.
I mean, continued.
I don't think that stopped.
Then I have no idea. What are you going to do?
Well, I do agree that
without keeping troops there,
we cannot fight for them at this point. Like, they've got to eventually want to fight for their own country.
And they clearly don't.
Well, I think maybe a few months ago they did, and then the momentum on the other side just got to a point where nobody was like, all right, they're just going, so they must be so strong, and they're just going all throughout the country. Mm-hmm. And militarily wise, strategically, they literally just encircled the capital. They went out to the outskirts and just started marching in. So by the time that, you know, the Pentagon's having a press conference about, okay, well, we're in really bad shape, they're approaching Kabul from north, west, and south. And then, you know, a day later, they're encircled completely from the east. So at that point, we really had no choice. And that's what I cannot believe.
But it would have happened eventually anyway.
No, not necessarily.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if it didn't happen now, who's to say it didn't happen in a year? We fully pull out in a proper whatever form that you see fit in a year, 2 years. I mean, we haven't beat back the Taliban in 20 years. I mean, what's stopping them for, I mean...
Well, I would disagree that we didn't beat them back, because we did.
Okay, well, we didn't beat them back enough to where they couldn't take over Afghanistan in 20 years.
Well, I agree that you...
Continually.
You probably cannot just continuously...
I don't think they're not beatable.
We would have had to have been there forever, basically. But it's written that, you know, as soon as we went into Afghanistan, like right after 9/11, like within weeks, we sent some special force. I think it was Delta, like a Delta team, and maybe SEALs too, or maybe it was Delta and Army Rangers, I think, but had Osama bin Laden and like really high up Taliban members in the hills of Afghanistan. And George Bush decided not to attack, and they fled across to Pakistan. And so that prolonged things, but the Taliban essentially was wiped out of Afghanistan within like a few weeks. So you have had progress in Afghanistan culturally, where you've got women that can go to, you know, get an education, have some rights, can vote, and then have a democracy. But they've got to be willing to fight for that. Now, was it inevitable that the Taliban would win and come back? I'm sure it was inevitable that they would come back, but when you spending trillions of dollars to fund an army that has, you know, modern equipment compared to most militaries in the world, they should probably put up a better fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Taliban had no aircraft at all, and now they do.
Our 20-year ROI has plummeted.
Oh.
I mean,
you would not want to invest in that.
No, I mean... What have we gotten now?
I think it was a severe and that comes back to America, the severe lack of or overconfidence in their military and our planning to be like, okay, well, we left them all this stuff, and that's clearly going to make sure that the Taliban never comes back. So now we've got the Taliban wiping through Afghanistan, freeing ISIS militants in, you know, Bagram in the prison there, Al-Qaeda, you know. Intelligence officers are saying that Al-Qaeda will probably come back now because they have a safe haven. Who knows what America will leave in terms of like CIA operatives, or, I mean, clearly at this point, we won't have a military presence. I think what they wanted, general-wise, the U.S. generals wanted to leave about 2,500 troops there, which I don't know if that was for air support or what exactly, but I don't think we're going to be doing that either.
I mean, I think you just got to pull out altogether. I mean, what's the point now? We're not going to go take it again.
Well, there is no win now. I think had we have managed the exit properly or in a better fashion, it would have been, it wouldn't have been as bad. Honestly.
No, it wouldn't have been as bad.
I mean, it probably would have been bad either way.
Yeah,
but
75,000 Taliban is still 75,000 Taliban, regardless if it was last month or if it was a year from now.
Well, they were facing supposedly 300,000 on the other side. Well equipped, way more equipped, but way less equipped in will to fight.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think the Taliban had any short of basically endless supply of ammunition either.
Well, again, they're being funded.
Yeah.
Iran, Russia, China, they all have interests against the U.S. So it's clear that before they even captured anything, they were being funded.
Yeah.
Pretty well, and I'm assuming that had a big role to play in their previous campaigns around the country before this even started in the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy! And I'm sure as time comes, as time flows, and day goes, that I'll just be interested to know the flipping and flopping that happened within the Afghani government and within their commanders in their armies. Because, I mean, who was it? Their secretary? Somebody already flipped. I can't remember who it was. I'd have to find it again.
Well, the president left the country. He just gave up. I guess the question is now, does America decide they want to attack and just decimate the Taliban leadership? Because I think they're so confident now that America won't do that they're just flaunting around, working out in the gym in the presidential palace.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either. At this point, I feel like the Taliban has put America in such a corner that there's no win for us. I mean, we could wipe the leadership out and then there'd be more.
Yeah.
We just mangled this so badly, exit-wise, to where we have no power over the country. Wasted
20 years.
20 years, over $2 trillion, many American lives, allies, lost soldiers. It's just hard to think of what good was accomplished other than helping Afghanistan have at least a few years of relative peace without the Taliban overseeing their daily life.
But, I mean, when they can just take it back in 2 weeks, it's like, what's the point?
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen a military campaign that was so successful so quickly since
Probably
the Germans
since
in World War
the
II.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah. They're literally calling it Blitzkrieg that they did, just lightning war, and they didn't really even have to fight. They did it at the very beginning, but in the past week, they've just taken capital after capital, and they've just been brokering deals.
I think everybody just surrendered, just probably instantly.
It's just a wave. It's like you see, all right, this capital's falling. Am I going to be the one? Or like 10 capitals falling a day, and then they come to your door next, and you're like, well, they're like, well, you can surrender, and nobody will die, or you can fight this whole horde of people we have, and our Toyotas, and our other equipment that we have found that
At Bagram Air Force
yeah,
Base.
that the Afghanistan military left. But I mean, it's kind of hard to believe what it's in now, what kind of state it's in. And it's hard to envision how bad it must be if people are like willing to get on a plane outside of
On a plane.
Yeah.
outside of a plane and fall off. That is just terrible to see, first off, but that just shows you how desperate people are to not be under rule of these people. But
I mean, it's like the little girls. I mean, they could go to school last week and now they can't.
Well, there was a woman mayor in Afghanistan that said she's fearful of, them coming to execute her now.
Yeah.
She's been on TV, but what the Taliban have recently said is they're gonna, let women have more rights. That's what we were talking about previously. Their PR just way better. They've learned in this 20 years how to
manipulate the media.
Oh yeah, their image. They have propaganda on Twitter, on Facebook. They have people that take videos. That was a huge role.
Do they have a Twitter
in this
account?
war? They have various Twitter accounts. That was a huge part in why they were so successul in this last week.
Yeah, they never had that at the beginning.
No, and they would take pictures. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and everything back then when we invaded in 2001. So they had no way. But now they're like posting videos or pictures of the things that they're capturing. People are posting videos on Twitter of them riding through the towns and how many of them there are. And you've got to think that other people are thinking, okay, there's a lot of them. They've got a lot of weapons. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of power. We probably don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
But PR, yeah. Their public image, dealing with America, being able to talk to America, which they didn't do in the past, meeting with the Secretary of State. And then just the strange world we live in that they are over the country and we're over the international airport. And neither of us are fighting.
And we're not going to.
That is a lesson they've probably learned. Back at the beginning of 2000,
Yeah.
there would have definitely been some fighting going on.
Oh, yeah.
And now they know. Strategically, the only way they lose here is to attack and have the image of them tarnished. I mean, it's already terrible, but people are willing to realize that, okay, well, they're going to be over the country. So we probably have to recognize
we've accepted that they now rule Afghanistan.
But if they started like just shooting Afghanistan people or troops out on the runway
we would
trying
have
to get
to
people,
go back.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we'd go back. We'd at least retaliate, and people would be like, okay, well, we don't recognize them. But we already see that China's going to recognize them, of course. I'm sure Iran's going to come out and do it. Same with Russia. So it's going to be typical of just the people who are totally on the other side of world politics compared to the U.S.
It's not even on the other side. It's just the ones who have something to gain.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even realize, but, the Uyghurs in China, Xinjiang, is not far from Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's not.
And so from that perspective, they want to have a good relationship with Muslims since they have Muslims in concentration camps in China. But I find that hypocritical that the Taliban's like, okay, well, we'll allow that. But they hate America because we're allies with Israel.
Yeah.
And they have taken supposedly Palestinian land. That's what they think. But China can have a Muslim concentration camp where they teach them, not to be Muslim. And Taliban's completely fine with it.
I mean, they're not all one exclusive tribe of Muslims.
That's true,
I mean, they hate other Muslims just as much as they hate Americans.
Well, I agree.
I mean, that's all Afghan is.
Well, for the most part, yeah.
I mean, mostly it's just a bunch of different tribes.
But the point remains, they hate America, for allying or for, the various things. But we don't have a concentration camp that is like a rethink, trying to educate people that Islam is bad. We don't have forced labor camps for Muslims in a specific state. And if we did, my gosh, the Taliban would hate us even more. But China and them, you never hear them say anything. I don't think anybody in the Muslim terrorist world has said anything about China's camp. And it's because I think they realize that China is not going to change anything. And China is very powerful. Yeah. And what are they going to do to China? Mm-hmm. That's just...
how much money is China giving them?
Right. And they might be. Yeah, I'm sure they gave the Taliban some money.
They might be trading slaves for all that
they think
money and equipment.
They think China is going in after the rare earth materials in Afghanistan, or just the minerals as well.
Yeah.
Because they need it. They're a growing economy. And you take that into account, same reason they want Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
rare earth materials. Taiwan, I don't know what all Afghanistan has, but clearly Taiwan's got some of the most in the world. But so a lot of things
Back
at play.
to like this is completely off topic. I didn't vet this source. I just saw it, but the Chinese government might have a secret prison in Dubai to house the. Say it again. Uyghurs.
Uyghurs.
Uyghurs? Yeah, I've heard,
Yeah,
I've
okay.
heard
I was
it
wondering
both ways.
I
Yeah.
was not sure how that was pronounced.
Yeah, Kabul.
We can talk about that at a later time. A secret prison in Dubai. I think it was Dubai.
I've heard.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
I've heard about this.
Have you?
Yeah, that they
Should I
think
have not have said that? Is that like a
No.
conspiracy
Oh,
theory?
they're coming for you now.
gosh.
They think that they've used slaves to build like a lot of the stuff around there.
Okay.
'Cause that city, I mean, that country is blown up. Not literally.
Very fast.
Well, it's going to sink not too long from now.
Maybe.
I mean, this is the fact. I mean, not in our
Not too
lifetime.
long from now. Yeah, it'd be a little while.
It'd be a little while.
Yeah.
That poor island they got.
I don't think they're too concerned based on the amount of buildings there.
No, they don't seem to be
But you know
concerned
the
at all.
Palm. Are we talking about the UAE? Like Dubai, right?
Yeah.
The Palm, which
Yeah.
is artificial islands. They made those.
Yeah, in the world.
And what?
Well, you have the Palm, the little,
Oh,
and then you have the world. It's like two separate sets of islands.
is there another one?
The one where they were trying to make the whole globe with the islands.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically a failed project. They've got three, actually.
That's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, the
no one
Palms
wants-
is world famous
Well,
now.
no one wants to go live on a 1,000 square foot island.
Well, yeah. Island building is a huge thing now.
Is it?
Like China is building islands in the South China Sea.
It's just really expensive.
It's reefs. They're
Yeah.
building on top of reefs, and
Yeah.
they've put several military bases in the South China Sea based off of that. That was a big fiasco 2 years ago.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's pretty harmful to the surrounding wildlife.
Well, I mean, don't talk to China about the climate.
Well, I
I mean,
just
they
mean
have
in
more.
general.
They probably produce more coal
they
exhaust
do.
than anybody in the world. They they overfish in territory that is not even theirs. They have like an army of fishing boats.
Mm-hmm.
They harm the
Well, I mean, I
climate
think
way more
to
than
feed
anybody
that
else.
amount of people, you have to
Yeah.
overdo everything.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
So
Yeah. That was a nice segue to overfishing in China from Afghanistan.
you just never know where you're gonna go.
No, I mean, we can get back to Afghanistan. We didn't nearly exhaust the topic, but we are getting kind of out there.
We got 30%.
All right. Well, I gotta go anyways.
We gotta go.
I gotta really go.
Oh, okay.
It's almost 7:30.
How does the Afghan soccer team?
Terrible.
Terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
About like their army. Should we have an outro?
Well,
We
at
can-
least
we
they
can cut
stepped
all-
on the field.
We can cut all that. They played the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, they did not leave in like that halftime. They came back out for the second half.
I wouldn't even
no
call
matter
I'm
the
not
score.
even sure I would have called that halftime.
All right.
We didn't. We're signing out now. I hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you again on the next episode of
Goodbye.
The State of Things
Next episode of The Goodbye.
on Toonami.